Hello, welcome to the Agentic Playbook on API design for agents. My name is Carlos, and today we'll explore how to design APIs that are optimized for AI agents and their unique needs. For the past decade or so, right, we built APIs, of course, for human developers. So a developer would go to a developer portal, understand the API, and then code their own application to invoke such APIs, right? Typically, of course, the consumer had, of course, the cognitive capacity to read a documentation, maybe to infer intent from a vague field name of some sort, or even some hard code logic to handle errors. Today, though, our consumer is likely an AI agent calling APIs as tools, right? And trying to predict the right API call, the right method, the right payload. And again, this is where the problem lies. Generic, weak descriptions will probably confuse our agent. So that's why we need a different approach. So what's wrong with it? If you see this OpenAPI spec here, description, it's kind of okay, right? Acceptable for a human user, but it's not that useful for an agent, right? So operation IDs, for instance, are too generic, like post orders, something that the agent can hallucinate to a get order or something later. Summaries is very short, doesn't give any hint of what it does. Some types are very loose, like a generic type string for a property, so again, the agent can also hallucinate here. And again, errors description are also very generic, won't help the agent to self-correct itself. So again, let's see how we can make this better. The first category of upgrades we can make here is really to think of the API description as a system prompt. So remember, the text we write here, right, will be directly injected into the LLM context window. So here we'll take an approach to orient and optimize the decisions of the agent. So the first change we're making in there is, again, choosing unique action-oriented verbs. So instead of generic get items, get orders, we tell exactly what it does, and operation IDs are specific, very important points here. The other thing is the description. So we take a detailed description and we use a framework where we detail the scope, triggers, some constraints, right? So this tool does not process that, right? Some other thing. If you do this, there's the side effect. That's yet another thing we can do. And again, examples, right? So here we can give a few shot examples, right? For the prompts, for the LLMs to choose to understand concrete examples of how to choose payloads here for this example. Now, for upgrade number 2, we're going to be now focusing on structure rigor. So for instance, we'll use additional properties set to false so we can prevent parameter hallucination. And also we'll change and prefer enums over strings. So again, we transform this problem from a generation problem into a classification problem, right? So we're going to be preventing the agent from guessing any values. So finally, for upgrade category number 3, we're going to be implementing a feedback loop. So when an agent fails, right, it needs actionable feedback to self-correct itself. If we have the 400 generic error, it really won't cut it. So again, we're gonna do this strategy of implementing reflection and micro prompt. So again, what we're using here is a very structured error schema. And one important portion here is we're including a hint object that really tells the agent what it is, examples of substitutes, the schema. So again, we're giving hints to the agent so it can self-correct itself in the next attempt. So how can we implement all of this? Here, I'll be using API Hub, a solution from Google Cloud where I can have a central registry of governance for APIs. And what I'll be doing is I have here to the left side a set of specs of APIs that agents can potentially be using. Then I'll trigger a CI/CD pipeline. I'll be using Cloud Build, but it can be any solution you want. And I'll be implementing these rules, these checks on the spec using the Spectral Agentic rules. So Spectral is an open source language for enforcing and linting specs, and that's what I'll be using. Then in Hub, I'll be cataloging the spec, the API, right? Who is the owner, a bunch of other governance features, but also, how is the fit of this API for agentic usage? So high, medium, low, etc. The agent in turn will read from this catalog and can use and choose better APIs, or even from a central governance perspective, my company can decide that agents can only use specs or APIs, right, that are high in agentic fit. Now for the demo, and here I'll have the few sample OpenAPI specs. So I'm having this first one, the legacy one that I'm calling. This matter is just the one that I showed at the beginning of the video. And again, it does not implement any of the agentic features we discussed. I have a second one that implements a few of them, so I'm calling it medium readiness. Again, it does have better operation ID, it does have a structured description as we showed, but again, it does not implement everything. Again, the explicit requirements is not set, no examples shown in here. Also, no, it does not have that hint that we discussed before. Lastly, I have this one that implements all of the checks again. So examples, the hint object, operation ID names, everything is well set in here. And in the demo, I'll be implementing these checks using spectral rules. And these are spectral rules for each of these points that we discussed. Again, this is not a comprehensive list. We could be checking many more things. But again, the description richness, again, we're given scores for each, examples, if it's a warning, if it's an error, so we can, choose what we want in here. As we said in the architecture slide, right, I'll run the pipeline that will run the linting rules on each of the specs. So here I'm showing you Cloud Build, where I run again the linting here in this step, and depending on the amount of scores, right, that it reached, I'll create a spec. So here this one was scheduled as low, so this is not a very good API for agentic consumption, right? In the end, I'll register this in API Hub, and I'll also set the attribute that I just showed before. Here I will show quickly API Hub, which is our central tool for registering and governing APIs, MCP tools, again for several other things. But what matters now is that we have those APIs registered, right? The human-centric, the medium, and the good one here. So let's check one of those. For instance, this one in here in API Hub, I can govern, ownership, lifecycle, dependencies, and a bunch of other things here within API Hub. But what's more important now is that under versions here, I have just one version, of course, I have created this attribute called Agentic Readiness. So again, this is the low one. So this is not a very good API, let's say, for agentic consumption. And here I have, of course, the methods, the spec, that's the not so good spec, as we mentioned before. But I also have here, let's say, the good ones, right? So I have the medium readiness one. So I created this parameter, right? This attribute for agentic readiness. So this is medium, and this one is a high. So this should be a good one for agentic consumption. That's it. Thank you for watching. If you want to learn more about API Hub and other agentic solutions from Google, be sure to check documentation. See you later.